So the first time I ever felt the full weight of imposter syndrome was probably when I played my first ever DJ set in front of hundreds of people, and it was the first time I'd ever DJ'd. I had hooks for hands. Surely everybody in that crowd was going to be scrutinizing my performance. The sense of fear of my performance, of unworthiness, the fear of being called out, basically the fear of failing. Until I realized I was right about that. Back in 2019, I received a phone call and I was asked to do a TED Talk. So as soon as I had accepted the TED Talk and hung up the phone, I immediately began to panic. TED was a platform that was shared by the world's greatest thinkers, scientists, authors, and some of the ones that I respected the most in the world. Where was I to fit in this equation? To be honest, I still don't know. But you know the feeling, right? It's the feeling that everybody around you knows more than you do, and everybody is hyper aware of your intrusion. It's the feeling when you're asked to do a job or consult with someone or receive an accolade that you think you don't deserve. Basically the feeling that you don't belong wherever you are. The feeling of the imposter. So in my life, I've had so many instances of the imposter syndrome, and I'm not here to tell you that I can make them go away completely. No, they just keep coming. But I have learnt to appreciate it in a way that I didn't before. But the difference is now, along the way, I've learnt to love this feeling rather than fear it. And that all comes down to the way that you frame the experience. So there are a couple of home truths to be dropped here, but stay with me, it's good news. Not everybody else thinks you're an imposter. It's easy to think to yourself that people in their own heads are scrutinizing your actions and behaviors at every twist and turn, but it's just not the reality. They're more concerned with their own actions and behaviors, and if anything, your actions and behaviors are influencing how they act and behave themselves. So whatever you have in your head about what others are thinking of you, it's not happening. And as I always say, nobody cares about your life as much as you do. It's highly likely that everybody in your position feels like they're an imposter as well. Now, I've had the privilege over the course of my life of speaking to and even interviewing some of the world's greatest achievers. And you would be surprised how much imposter syndrome comes up with them. We're talking about some pretty high-profile people. Nobody is immune to this intrusive thought. So if all of these things are happening within your head and not within the heads of others, then how are you using your control over those thoughts to effectively respond to this phenomenon? We'll put it this way. I like to think of myself as a kind of student of the world and the people being my teachers, which means the more interesting, erudite, and accomplished individuals that I get to meet is to my benefit. So as the imposter, I'm going places that I otherwise wouldn't. I'm meeting people I wouldn't otherwise, whether it be speaking at conferences or playing music festivals or consulting with businesses or just traveling the world and meeting people. Their influence on me is to my benefit alone. I'm also getting on-the-ground experience doing whatever it is I'm doing, which is, in my opinion, the best way to learn something. Nothing beats being thrown in the deep end. Just remember this, the expert learns nothing, but the imposter has everything to gain. So the process of crafting that TED Talk actually made me better at something that I was previously average at. I was able to consult with a team and get real-world experience doing something in a professional manner. Subsequently, I started getting booked for more speaking engagements, and that made me better at that too. And when I did the conference itself, meeting countless interesting individuals that would go on and introduce me to other interesting individuals enriched my life in a way that it wouldn't have otherwise. Some of those people I've even forged lifelong friendships with that teach me something about the world every single day. So it would have been easy for me to have turned down that opportunity thinking it was out of my league. To this day, I kind of think it still is. But if I had turned it down, I would be throwing away any future chance I had of ever being worthy of that platform. Not to mention the life enrichment that I've received through people that I've met along the way. See, imposter syndrome ain't that bad. This week's quote of the episode comes from Anthony Mindel, who said, "This idea that you're undeserving, a fraud, That you're not as smart or talented or together as people might think makes you an imposter and therefore unqualified in whatever it is you want to do, and someday you're going to be found out. By whom? The imposter police? You're not an imposter, you're a human being. This is another reminder that the perceived threat from being the imposter is largely internal. It's also something that we all as human beings experience. And those within the domain of which we can control can always be turned into our benefit rather than our disadvantage. And that's all from me.